For those who believe in conspiracies, in researching shipping emissions, it almost seemed that keeping the topic from discussion is a worldwide effort. There is information available, but it is little used and not frequently talked about, even though it's a really big problem. So let's play a little Scully and Mulder in this week's episode of the Sea Files. Okay, bottom line up front, as I was taught, shipping emissions are roughly equal to those of Japan. So it's a big deal. Why? The quantity of goods shipped is huge. The fuel choice used is a high carbon emitter, the velocity of the ships, and their design. Attempts to reduce emissions have been strongly opposed by China, imagine that, with the world at large largely being silent on the topic. Well, how can I make such a statement? Let me briefly touch on the four whys. Quantity is pretty simple. As I mentioned, a lot of the world's GDP travels on the oceans, and since emissions have no direct cost on a product when it's shipped, the impact is not considered. So, from an emissions perspective, it's typically better to keep the distance required for shipping a product low, and the shipping industry is not, that's not what they do, right? Fuel fuel used in shipping is typically a heavy oil that is a high CO2 emitter. For a large container ship, there are not readily available technologies to replace current engines. A lot of stuff gets thrown out, but hydrogen takes up too much space, natural gas has leakage issues. There is research into alternatives going on, but given the lead times involved in shipping construction plus development times, they are all 15 years out from widespread adoption. Velocity, well, that increases drag, which in turn reduces the needed energy for a ship to move. Shipping emissions could be immediately reduced if ships slowed down. For that, more on that, see my video on carbon intensity and velocity. Finally, ship design is a trade off among many variables, including energy efficiency and cargo capacity. There was a time, of course, when ships were really low energy. Think of clipper ships. Of course, today the pendulum has swung to the other side and we have these huge container ships. The bottom line is it is possible to design a lower emission ship, but not a no emission ship. And it would impact trade costs. Please note my recurring theme. New technologies are not needed to tackle some of these issues. Reduced trade, slower ships, with more efficient hull designs can be done today with the techs we have today. Don't need to wait on anything. For example, let's take a look at the emissions difference between a product shipped to the US from China versus one shipped from Mexico. So, first, the carbon intensity for goods traveling by sea is roughly 0.02. So, all other things being equal, shipping a product overseas increases emissions by 2% worldwide. This applies across the board. The story doesn't end there, since China's carbon intensity is roughly double that of Mexico. So, emissions perspective for Mexico is their products are roughly 50% less before you even take into account shipping. Of course, each country is somewhat different, but you're getting the idea. Why doesn't this get more press? This is not old news, it's recent. The Carbon Brief article I'm flipping up there is very current. When you do a video search on the topic, strange results appear. Here's the search I did today. My top 9 results seem to be rather strange given what I was looking for, right? Old videos, misleading titles, and nothing really on shipping. A conspiracy? Sure seems that it's a topic that is being kept in the closet that could be addressed today. That much I think we can be certain of. So, this is why you've heard me say before I advocate an immediate unilateral 2% tariff on all long range shipping. Tie the tariff to the industry's carbon intensity so there's a path to reduce the tariff over time. And since a carbon tax is not going to pass anytime soon in the US, direct the funding as a fee to renewable research so it's not spent elsewhere. I'll bet you can get the red and the blue in the US to agree on a China shipping topic. I am sure there are a lot of different ways to implement this, but the general idea is straightforward. Shipping needs to account for its emissions. So, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm still in the early stages of rolling out this channel, so mention to your friends as well. Take care and talk to you soon.